Yeah.
So with that being said, this is the BS Busters May the 4th be with you podcast. It's going to be very Star Wars centric. But before we get into Star Wars, we have to, well, no, let's do Star Wars first, and then we'll cover the other little bits of news. So but before we get any further, we'll have the lady introduce herself, and then the gentleman, and then I'll introduce myself, and we'll get into it. So let's go.
Salutations, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. This is Joy Element Star welcoming you to the BS Busters, and it's time to send out a force within ourselves. As today is May 4th.
That's right. That's right. It is May 4th. So,
and this is Piggy Doc from Pedophile Facts. Happy May the 4th.
Yes. It's not really a holiday, but if you're into Star Wars, it's
well, it is cool. Now, according to California.
Yeah, but California is a large state, but it's not like worldwide and no one gets a day off. Although you can take a day off if you want to. I mean, I wouldn't, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get to it. This is me, Mr. Red Fox, and today we're talking about Star Wars stuff. So let's get the downer stuff out the way first. Just this week, just a few days ago, actually yesterday, Peter Mayhew died. He was 74 years old. Now, for those of you who don't know who the hell Peter Mayhew is the body actor. Was the body actor for Chewbacca for many, many years for Star Wars. He was the guy who was the body actor for Chewbacca in A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I think he was also the body actor for Chewbacca in Revenge of the Sith. So through like 4 films, he was the body actor. Now, in these latest films, he was getting kind of up there because, I mean, I think the reason he was so tall is because he had like a hormone disorder or something. So he wasn't in the best of health anyway. So like while he was in the scenes where Chewbacca's sitting down, like they had another actor for when he was walking around. But yeah, Peter Mayhew is the guy who was the, he was the body actor for Chewbacca, which, Chewbacca was a real friend. He had Han Solo's back throughout multiple films. Heck, he even gut shot his bitch ass of a son when he sucker attacked him in The Force Awakens. That's a real friend right there. Your son just murdered you, and your friend's like, man, you little son of a bitch, shoots him with a plasma caster. Well, no, it wasn't plasma. It was a normal blaster because Han had his bowcaster. So yeah, it was a very interesting character, and we're losing so much of the old guard with the series. I mean, we lost Carrie Fisher. We lost Peter Mayhew. We lost the guy who played R2-D2. We lost Anthony Daniels, who played C-3PO. And James Earl Jones is getting up there, but fortunately, we don't need him anymore.
And we lost Admiral Akbar.
You mean the actor or the character?
The actor.
The actor who played Admiral Akbar. Oh, that's a shame. In the expanded universe, Admiral Akbar went to the Republic Academy, and actually, in terms of technical ability, he actually scored higher than any of the people who would go on to be Imperial admirals. Even better, he's even a better tactician than Thrawn, who everyone has this big fucking hard on for that piece of shit. Chiss. But he was never allowed to be in the Imperial Navy because, well, they're racist. What?
Racism. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
They're racist bastards. But it's a good thing because, he wound up going back to Mon Calamari and kicking the Empire's ass in Return of the Jedi. So, it's a good thing. Yeah, when you let your racism get in the way of competent people, doomed to fail. But that's neither here nor there.
So You know that Mark Hamill won't be going anywhere soon because he's in his 50s. But I do fear for Harrison Ford.
What, he's in his 70s?
Yeah.
Yeah, he smokes so much pot. Here's the thing: his character is dead, so he's not going to be. I think they need to. The next Indiana Jones needs to have him pass the torch. And I even thought of a way to do it that doesn't fuck over canon. Like, we can just ignore that fourth movie. We can pretend that movie never happened, because I think most Indiana Jones fans want to pretend the Crystal Skull never happened.
That can't be it. So I read there was a previous interview from Steven Spielberg says how Harrison Ford will keep playing Indiana Jones until he dies.
Well, then, we don't have long to wait now, do we? But my thing is, here's how I think they could pull it off. Like, the whole thing, if you watch The Last Crusade, the whole thing is that there's this Indiana Jones-esque archaeologist who basically gives him his hat when he's a kid, right?
Right.
At the beginning of that film. So I think now, like, you could do a movie where it's like set in the 70s or the 80s, where like Indiana Jones is now the old archaeologist talking about all the shit he discovered, but no one believes him because it's so outlandish. It's like, I'm telling you, I fought the Nazis. I discovered the Ark of the Covenant. I found the Holy Grail. And they're like, yeah, whatever, Pops. like no one believes him whatsoever. So basically, he goes on one last adventure, but he's joined by Short Round. Like, I thought that would be a very interesting thing. Like, who's totally pissed because he's like, look, you were basically like a father to me, and you couldn't even say goodbye when you left me. You just left me with some people who claimed they were my relatives and didn't say anything. So you have this big almost father-son thing going on, which I think could totally work. Plus, you can get the actor who played Short Round, because the guy is a Hollywood stuntman, and he's in really good shape, so he could pull off those physical things because Harrison Ford's too goddamn old to do any of that shit. I think that could totally work. I mean, the film would basically be kind of like a rendition of The Last Crusade, except Harrison Ford's in his
father's position.
Yeah, he's in his father's position. But I mean, really, that's like the only way you can really end an Indiana Jones film, is at the end, like, except, you know, like he's forced to give up the hat and he has to give it to Short Round. I think that could work. Plus, it would kind of make sense. It would bring it full circle, maybe. I don't know. Or you could have him have a daughter, because Indiana is it's a gender neutral noun. So, like, I've heard some people say you can't have a female Indiana Jones. It's like, yeah, but you could have a chick named Henrietta Jones wants to be called Indiana. Could work. That's not really a unnecessary thing.
If the doctor can be a girl, then so why can't Indiana Jones?
Well, I mean, that isn't really the issue. The issue is, I mean, you know, some people are just kind of like, oh, well, you can't have a female Indiana Jones. I'm like, well, you can. You can even keep the same name, because Indiana is a gender neutral noun, like Alabama or, you know, Alex. It's gender neutral.
It's just a nickname.
Well, it's the dog's name. Yeah, that's the dog's name, damn it. But anyway, we're now that we've talked about those people, let's talk about some Star Wars merchandise that we love. So before we go any further, I'm just gonna label the levels of Star Wars fandom and the type of merchandise they get. So you've got like the level 5 Star Wars fan, which is like the person who has Jedi robes and goes and buys clone outfits and stormtrooper outfits, and, you know, like, they create like alternate characters. These are the same people that, if they were Star Trek fans, would have like little bios for their characters that they created. I have never been that level of fan with Star Wars or Star Trek, or the tier below that, which is the people who they don't get the outfits, but they'll get bits and pieces of the gear. Like, you know, they actually have a toy lightsaber or a toy phaser or whatever. I'm not that level either. I'm like the third tier, which is like there's certain things I'm really obsessive about, like lore-wise. There's certain things that I'll get, like the encyclopedias and the tech manuals and stuff like that. But like that's the length of my fan devotion. Then you have the second tier, which are people who were like really into it when they were kids, or like have a certain phase where their parents bought them the toys, but now that they're older, they just aren't that into it. And then you have the first tier, which is like they're casuals. You know, they're familiar with it. They'll watch a movie or watch a TV show, but they're not like gonna really go out of their way to buy any of the merchandise. So. With that being said, let's talk about some of our favorite Star Wars merchandise. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
I wanted to own a large size AT&T toy. The problem is, I've been wanting to get a large size AT&T toy.
Yeah, those things are hell of expensive, especially if you get the ones that are remote controlled, that move.
Yeah.
Those ones are, because I remember when I was a kid and I had a friend who had one of those things were like, they were like over 120, 140 bucks. Which, dang. I mean, we're talking about the 90s, so that's like 220, 230 bucks now. So they're not cheap. But they're worth it. They're worth it. If you really want to enact the Battle of Hoth, that's the only way you can really do it. Really, that's the only way.
Yeah. I remember one of my relatives owning one.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm just saying they were kind of more of an expensive. Those were like, okay, this is your Christmas gift or this is your birthday gift, type of thing. That's cool.
And then there's the life-size statues. Like of stormtroopers, Darth Vader, Yoda,
and so on.
And so on.
These are things that you own, or these are things that you want to own?
Things that I actually want.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about merchandise you actually have purchased or had purchased for you.
Oh, no. I thought we were talking about the Star Wars merchandise we like, our favorite.
No, we're talking about Star Wars merchandise that we want to own. I mean, that we own, sorry. That we have. We actually have. Like, we remember having and playing with and doing cool shit with.
I still have that Darth Vader voice changer helmet, as well as the toy lightsabers from 2005.
Yeah, I always wanted those, but I just never really... I was like, when it came out, I was like, I don't really feel comfortable having this, you know what I mean? Plus, it never really sounded like Darth Vader. It was like, cause basically they had like the little cheap one they gave for the kids for like Halloween, where you had like a shitty mask with a shitty voice changer, and it didn't really make your voice sound like Darth Vader. It just sounded like distorted. And if you really wanted the really good one, you were looking at like $70, $80. And generally speaking, your parents weren't going to get that because you had to get the helmet sized for your head. And if you were a big head child, you were just screwed. So it was like a purchase you could use for maybe like a year. And then you're like, shit, fuck. Like a lot of the really good Star Wars merchandise, you have to get custom made. So it's like...
And that could add up pretty quickly.
Unless you have a lot of money. But, I mean, it's...
I mean, money or not, it can add up pretty quickly if you are trying to go full custom.
That's what I'm saying. Even then, if you're going full custom, you still have to like now it's getting cheaper because they have 3D printers where you can 3D print a lot of stuff. But back in the day, people used to have to make that shit by hand, which was even more expensive. So, I mean, So yeah. Any other cool shit you wanna espouse that you had, Pinky? Or,
no, I think those are the only Star Wars merch I have.
All right, Jewel.
This is really hard for me because this is going way back into childhood for me. But the only Star Wars toys I had were figures, and that would be a Chewbacca, a and Darth Vader. So if anything, I mostly was casual and still am to this day. It's since if anything, I haven't seen them in ages for me.
Yeah, I mean, like if I was younger, I don't think I would be that interested in the new Star Wars stuff because it doesn't really interest me.
Yeah,
Even that new Millennium Falcon, I was like, that's cool, but I'm not
yeah.
really that interested
I
in it.
mean, back then I was still a lot more flexible, and I still wasn't into Star Wars like my parents were for a bit.
So your parents were the Star Wars fanatics. For
Yeah,
me,
so I got in the short of the stick. What about you, Red?
see, this is where the irony is going to come in because even though I'm not really that enthused about the current state of Star Wars merchandise-wise, I think I had the most merchandise of everyone here because like up until the prequel trilogy, I was heavily into the trading card game.
That's the funny thing because I actually thought it would be between you and Pinky. I thought between you and Pinky, you both would have a lot of coinage
Now
as
I
far as the
remember.
merchandise.
I remember those Star Wars battle action figures that
HeroClix, yeah, they had the HeroClix were cool, but like that seemed too gimmicky to me, and it was kind of expensive because they only came in like a set of 3, and some of them were really expensive. The trading card game, basically, which was actually a really good value back in the day, because you spent like $60-$70 and you got a full light side, dark side set. So basically, right off the bat, you could play whatever you wanted, and then you got the booster sets that basically were for different stuff. Like you could get like Ancient Jedi set, you could get the Old Republic set, which was actually pretty cool. You could get shit. I forgot the. There was like a set for like people who fought. For like Ewoks and low tech. It was like low tech versus high tech deck where you could have like low tech, like Ewoks and shit. I forgot. Not Vigilante. Forgot. There's a name. It's escaping a term. It's a terminology. It's when you have low tech fighters using hit and run tactics to wear down a technologically superior foe. Anyway, it was a very nice thing. I stayed up with that until the prequel trilogy because I just really didn't care that much about the prequel trilogy because the quality of some of the stuff kind of went down a little bit in terms of the trading card game. But with the prequel trilogy, I still bought Star Wars merchandise because I got the Star Wars, the original trilogy, the Lego Star Wars original trilogy. And then I got I stayed away from the prequel trilogy because it had Jar Jar Binks, and even to this day, I still hate that character. But then I went and brought the Lego Complete Saga, which is the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. Slightly better graphics, all the content, and plus you had Jar Jar Binks walking around Mos Eisley Cantina, and you could basically switch into Darth Vader and force choke his ass to death multiple times repeatedly. It was great because fuck that bastard. Let's see what else. Let's see. I had multiple toy sets. I had Jabba's sail barge. I had the Millennium Falcon. I had who else? I had the ice monster and the ice cave. Empire Strikes Back Luke in his flight suit. I did not have a Yoda figurine. I do have a Yoda a little Yoda talking thing that you squeeze its hand and it says little Yoda isms, which is kind of cool. I have multiple tech manuals for Star Wars. I have the weapon tech manual. I have the ship tech manual. I have the like general technology of the time tech manual. I have multiple runs of the comics. I have multiple runs of the old comics, like from the reprints of the 70s, 80s ones. So I have the Young Han Solo trilogy, the Lando Calrissian books. I don't really like the young the young Jedi ones because it's like the young Jedi ones is literally just like, okay, we're gonna rehash like how many times can we have a Solo or a Skywalker turn to the dark side? It's like, do we have to keep on rehashing the same fucking story? And let's see what else. Damn. Obviously, I have the other Star Wars video games, the Super Star Wars games, the Star Wars games on the NES/Game Boy. They were ported to the Game Boy, but I mean, if you have one version, it's the same as the other version, except without color for one. Let's see, KOTOR 1 and 2. I have the Old Republic for PC. I actually was one of the people that bought that game at launch with the special edition because I thought it was going to be good, and it wasn't. Damn. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. I don't have Pod Racer. I never liked that game. I do have all 3 Rogue Squadrons, though, because they're really good.
I have the first 2 Battlefront games on PS2.
Yeah, I have those. I don't have them on PS2. I got them on PC because PC, you can still go online and play people, and there still is a pretty vibrant community for playing online against people. I mean, obviously not as many people playing the new Battlefront games, but hell, at least I don't have to pay to unlock shit.
Nice punch.
Yeah.
Also, the complete saga of the Lego Star Wars games.
Yeah, I mean, the complete saga is a great value. It's just the thing is like they changed how some of the levels played, and like they changed the Death Star trench run in the complete saga versus the original trilogy. So like in the complete saga, they change it. Like they change certain of the certain vehicle things, and I'm like, I liked how it was in the original versus how they changed it, but whatever. It is what it is. But aside from that, it's overall pretty damn good game. I mean, you know, it's pretty good. So yes, I have given a lot of money to George Lucas and and LucasArts back in the day for Star Wars merchandise. So much money. Between me and my parents. We gave a lot of money to that man. So let's see. I think we've gone over the merchandise. I guess we can go over to our next little bit of news, which is the 30th anniversary of one of the most influential video game devices ever, the Game Boy.
I still have the original. No. So I'm not sure if it still works.
The original,
Mine still
it probably still works because it's the Game Boy. The Game Boy is one of the few handhelds that you could beat someone to death with it, wash it down, let it dry, and then play it and be like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's one of the few things that you could ever do with something that durable.
Yeah,
in short, it was quote unquote made with Nintendium.
Yeah, I have like multiple Game Boys. I have like 2 brick Game Boys. I have 3 Game Boy Colors. I have 2 Game Boy Advances. I don't have a Game Boy Advance SP though. I just never really saw the point of having one. So like a lot of Game Boys. I have a Game Boy Micro, which is really tiny, but still kind of fun. A lot of Game Boys. Love the Game Boy. The Game Boy to me is still one of my favorite handheld devices. The library for the Game Boy is insane. Even now, the amount of games that the Game Boy had is, and the variety of the library. I mean, you had something for everyone. You had puzzle games, you had RPGs, you had fighting games, and when I say fighting games, yeah, there was some shit, but there were some legit good ports of fighting games on the Game Boy.
I was gonna say fighting games on a Game Boy.
Yeah,
That's a little bit hard to imagine because of you know what I'm gonna say, right?
Limited buttons.
Ding.
no, that's true, but I mean, like you had some really good ports on the Game Boy. Like you had Street Fighter 2 on the Game Boy, relatively good port. You had
Killer Instinct.
Killer Instinct. That was a really good port of the home game, of the home console game, and they were able to basically. I mean, yeah, you were missing two types of punches, but because the Game Boy had digital sticks that were pressure sensitive, basically, if you did a light tap of the Game Boy button, that was a light punch or a light kick or a heavy punch or a heavy kick. So it was like basically you had it translated onto the system and it worked. Not that it was perfect, but it got the job done. So yeah, a lot of games on the system.
Anybody that had the Super Game Boy can understand how much of a difference this was.
Yeah, I mean it really got the game. I never had a Super Game Boy, which is kind of weird. I didn't see the point at the time because I already had all these other Game Boys. So why another Game Boy that I can play on my Super Nintendo? But yeah, the Game Boy, great handheld. Yes, was it the most technically advanced handheld? No. Did it have a backlight? No. Did it have color? Not for a long time. But you know what? My God, every single handheld that went up against the Game Boy got taken out back and curb stomped. It was great. The Game Gear curb stomped. The Nomad curb stomped. The Atari Lynx curb stomped. Just the TurboGrafx Portable curb stomp. Just and they were like, but it's more powerful. It's got better graphics. It's got a backlight. It's got color. Doesn't matter.
Tell me. I was going to say, tell me how much of a drain was on your batteries and the game variety.
Did you know there's a type of Game Boy that can also sedate you?
Yeah, I think Nintendo worked on one that was available in hospitals that kids could play while they were about to go under for surgery or for procedures and shit. Yeah, I mean, listen, the Game Boy was just a really great handheld. A lot of Game Boy camera, the Game Boy typewriter, the Game Boy.
It was for the Game Boy.
The Game Boy just. Great handheld, and it reached a wide audience because the Game Boy launched with Tetris as a bundle game, and Tetris was just such a. I mean, anyone could play it. Kids could play it. Adults could play it.
Tetris is a universal language at this point.
It's a universal game. Like anyone can play Tetris and be like, "Oh, this is great." And I give props to Nintendo for coming out with it. The only handheld that came close to dethroning the Game Boy was the Wonder Swan, because the Wonder Swan was created by the guy who created the Game Boy. So, Gunpei Yokoi, who passed away sadly because there was a car accident and he was hit by a car, which is fucked up. But what are you gonna do? But yeah. One of my personal favorite handhelds, and I have not seen a handheld that was as well made as I know people love the DS and the 3DS, but to me the DS is nice, the 3DS is nice, but the Game Boy, man, that was a fun little gaming handheld.
Hey, at least earned its. I mean, both. I mean, the Game Boy was the legacy of the handheld, and if anything, you can't have a legacy without a founder. So give give credit to the Game Boy, the brick that was able to stand up to everything that it weathered.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, personally, I would like to see Nintendo bring back the Game Boy. I think that'd be awesome. Like they've done all types of mini consoles. You know, they did the SNES Classic, the NES Classic. I do the Game Boy Classic. The Game Boy Classic, but instead of it just being all just Game Boy games, have like a nice mix of like Game Boy games, Game Boy Color games, and maybe some Game Boy Advance games. And have it be like 50 games. On a handheld, $100, you get 50 games. Maybe like 15 Game Boy games, 15 like 20 Game Boy Color games, and then 15 Game Boy Advance games. Because that'd be cool. To me.
Mm-hmm.
And it survived for 10 years until it was discontinued when the Game Boy Advance arrived.
Yeah, but technically speaking, the Game Boy Advance was also part of the Game Boy family. So technically, it goes beyond that. Like basically, it went from '89, because I know it released in Japan in '88, but we're doing worldwide. So worldwide '89 to 2000 to if you include the Game Boy Advance till 2004. So like 15 years. That's pretty. Like no one has beaten that yet. Not even the. Well, I mean, if you combine the 3DS, because let's see, the DS launched in 2005. I want to say.
In 2004.
2004, yeah, 2004. So basically, the DS is about on par with the Game Boy. About on par. About 15 years. So I'm excited to see where they're gonna go next. I don't know where, but
If anything, it's still something memorable, and to that, I thank them for the Game Boy and hope that the next generation will continue to follow in its footsteps. Not to say that it shouldn't be the same, but well, you know.
okay. So, Game Boy memories. Anyone have any favorite Game Boy memories they want to share? Any Game Boy games that were like, wow, this shit is on fire.
Believe it or not,
Pokemon games.
what was? Yeah, believe it or not, it was the Battleship. For me, it was Battleship game, and I was actually undefeated in my entire streak for a certain game.
What, Pokemon?
No, it was actually what was it? Battleship. It was a Battleship game that was on the Game Boy. If I can, I'll look it up real quick, because I remember that game was pretty fun and yet also annoying to a point. Oh, that's right. I gotta wait.
All right.
In a sense, I actually won a good $100 from beating everybody on the street.
Okay.
So what about you, Red?
I remember just the sheer amount of RPGs I had for my Game Boy. I had so many RPGs for the Game Boy. I had Robopon. I had let's see what else. Shit. Final Fantasy Legend 2 and 3. I had which aren't Final Fantasy games. They're actually Romancing Saga games, but who cares? I had, let's see, what else did I have for that system? I had Azure Dreams, which was it's basically the Game Boy Color version of the second game in Konami's little RPG monster breeding games, Jade Cocoon and Azure Dreams. Except the Game Boy version takes out a lot of stuff, but it's still a full and complete game. I had Revelations Demon Slayer, which is actually a Shin Megami Tensei game. However, it's got a different title, but it's still a Shin Megami Tensei game. I mean, just insane. I can't even remember all the RPGs I had for the Game Boy. Like, so many RPGs for the Game Boy. It was ridiculous. The platformers. I had Super Mario World, Super Mario Land, Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land, Super Mario Land 2, Super Wario Land 3. I have the entire Wario Land series. I love those games. They're so much fun. I wish Nintendo would bring that franchise back.
The Wario Land series?
Yeah, the Wario Land series. I mean, yeah, WarioWare is nice, but I mean, just the sheer, because Wario was a different platformer. It was more of a puzzle platformer versus Mario's frenetic, like movement-based, kinetic, movement-based platforming. Whereas Wario's more like, okay, I have to get here. I have to discover this treasure. What do I have to do in order to find out where this treasure is? How do I use my abilities in order to traverse this world? See what else? Wario. My God, I can't remember. I can't remember all the Game Boy games I have because I have so many. That's the thing. Like, I have over 400 Game Boy games, so a lot of them. I do love Tetris Attack for the Game Boy, though. I think it's better than the home console release of the title. And I know some people are going to get mad about that, but I don't care because I like it. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. So now that we've done that, anyone else have anything else they want to say about the Game Boy before we move on to the next topic?
Want to move on to the next topic?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, then. So the next topic is, see, what else? The continuing failure of the PS Mini.
Oh, God. And before anybody asks,
is there another price drop?
That's feeling even harder.
What?
Is there another price drop?
Well,
No.
I mean, at the Best Buy that I live near, and from what I've heard, this has happened in multiple Best Buys. Basically, they've been selling PS, like they've been giving away PS Minis. They're like, okay, we will give you a PS Mini if you buy a PS4 Pro. So basically, they're giving it away if you buy a PS4 Pro. And I know that the price on Amazon for a PS4 for PS Mini is $40. And that, like, people are losing because they were $100 at launch, and they've dropped over 50%. So basically, that tells you that the people who bought these and were thinking, "Oh man, I'm going to be able to sell this and scalp," like they're losing money. Which I don't feel sorry about it because fuck them. Because the PlayStation, I keep on telling people this: the PlayStation is not the best retro console to do. And it doesn't help that that Sony basically just did some half-ass bullshit some half-ass bullshit for the system, you know?
Yeah. Shows how much belief they have in it.
So, I mean, you know, I'm kind of sad that it failed. Because like people are saying you dislike Sony. No, I want Sony to be good, but I mean, if Sony's just gonna throw some shit out there and be like, why aren't you buying this shit? We didn't do anything to make it pretty or enticing. You should just buy it because it's Sony. And
that's where people get it wrong.
I can't. I mean, I'm not gonna buy a PlayStation Mini just because it's a Sony product. Like that isn't enticing enough to me to want to buy it. Like the games that they have on there are shit that you can get on the through PSN. So that's not really enticing. Like, and it's like the usual suspects. And the thing is like the Sony has the PlayStation has such a large library. Why would you only go with like a handful of games? You know what I mean?
Like what? Why go for a small pocket of games when you could get a big library?
Well, I mean, what would have made sense was for them to release different types of PS Minis. Like, okay, this is the PS Mini Blue, and the PS Mini Blue is just RPGs. Like every game on here is an RPG. The PS Mini Red, which every game on the PS Mini Red would be like racers. So you have your Daytona. You'd have your Daytona USA. You'd have your Twisted Metals. You'd have your Gran Turismos. You know, like your kart racer, stuff like that. Your PS Mini Green would be like, okay, these are fighting games. So you'd have your Marvel vs. Capcom, your Marvel vs. Capcom 2. You'd have your Street Fighter Alpha. You'd have your Guilty, your 2D fighters, your Tekken, stuff like that. And it's like, it just feels lazy. Like, that's the thing about the PS Mini. It feels lazy. It feels like Sony just threw some shit together, no real thought into it. I mean, you can tell it's lazy because, like, I think, like, 11, 12 of the games on there are PAL region games, which means if you play a PAL region game on a conventional North American TV, it's going to run slow. You know, and I mean, that just tells you how fucking lazy the PS Mini was. Like, they just threw some shit together. And like, here's the sad thing, right? Sony owns the right to all those ISOs. They literally could have had someone go online, download the proper ISOs, and upload it into the chipset, into the ROM thing for this system, and they couldn't even be bothered to do that, which tells you how fucking lazy the shit is.
Yeah. By the way, I found the game that I was trying to get on the top of my tongue. It was Radar Mission.
Radar Mission, yeah, it's kind of like Battleship, but not quite.
Actually, it is Battleship, but that's only one game because it has two games, which is a B game and an A game.
So kind of like Tetris.
Yeah. As in, if you want to go with the Battleship game, then you pick the game A section. If you want to go for a shoot up of sorts, then go with game B.
Oh, that sounds interesting. But yeah, sadly I'm not the biggest tactical game like that. That's not my big thing, but it is what it is. So anything else anyone wants to say about the PS Mini, where they were just like, oh man, they can't even give this shit away. I was thinking about getting one just for hacking purposes, but I was like, I don't want to pay $40 for it.
I'm trying not to facepalm because seriously, how how bad did this fail? Because it just screams, you had only one thing and you screwed that up.
You mean like they say, you had one job, one
Yes.
job, and you fucked that up. Well, apparently Sony for the places that can't sell them, Sony's saying that they'll buy them back. Which I'm like, you should buy them back because no one wants this. I mean, people bought them, but I've said this before. The PlayStation is not nostalgic like other consoles because
The only one would be the PS2 if I think about it.
even then, but here's the thing: would you trust Sony to do a PS2 mini if how they fucked up the PS1 mini?
Would you trust EA with your life?
Hell no.
No.
Then that would be your answer.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. I like the idea of a PS1, PS2 mini. But would Sony do right, considering how they fucked up the PS1 mini? Probably not.
And I'm sorry I said that because I have a feeling that I would give a resounding no if I ever said, would you entrust EA with anything,
Hell
let
no.
alone your life?
I don't even trust EA. I wouldn't trust EA to walk my dog across the street, much less make a good game. Speaking of EA, this is a nice little aside. BioWare is like, yeah, we're totally supporting Anthem. No, you're not.
I was going to say,
You have a fucking skeleton crew working on Anthem. And everyone else is moving over to work on Dragon Age 4. Because, like, what you guys should have been making in the first damn place instead of a third-person shooter. Like, who the fuck thought that was a good idea? Who?
I'm trying not to laugh because you got me laughing hard for that line. Like, seriously, who would trust EA with anything at this point?
I don't trust. I haven't trusted EA in years. Like, I'm gonna tell you when I realized EA was full of shit. When EA
Their Madden series.
Oh no, I never gave a shit about Madden. I've never given a shit about EA sports games. But no, when I knew EA was fucked was when they basically ran Will Wright out of Maxis. The Sims guy, right? And they made Spore, right? And like Spore could have been a good game if it didn't have that fucking shitty DRM. But that shitty DRM, like Spore, like there are parts of Spore that are still unplayable even now because of the DRM. And there's a game, a follow-up to Spore called Dark Spore, which you cannot even play that game because of the DRM. Like, because it has to be connected to a fucking server in order for you to play the game.
And the servers are out.
And the servers have been pulled, so you can't play the game. This is the shit that EA was pulling back then. I was like, yeah, fuck you guys. Right? Like, I mean, everyone's like, I can't believe they did that to SimCity. Yeah, well, they did to Spore, and, Will Wright left, and now Maxis is owned by EA, and they've done nothing but make shit ever since. Like, that new SimCity game. Like, how are you going to make a quote-unquote modern next-gen SimCity game that's more limited than a fucking SimCity game that was on the SNES? That's literally what they made with SimCity 2014. That literally was a game that was more limited than a SimCity game that was on a little 16-bit cartridge.
Which is WTF.
Like, I mean, I've said this before, okay? If you're making a game, right, and you call yourself this is the next gen of a game, you need to make a game less limited, not more limited. There needs to be more features, not less features, right? Like, if, like, the Mario games would not be as lauded as they are if Nintendo never went beyond the game design of Super Mario World. I love Super Mario World, but if they never went beyond that in terms of game design, I mean, that's why the 3D Sonic games are not that good. Because generally speaking, all they're doing is just applying the same level design from a 2D Sonic game to a 3D format. There's literally, like, there's never been that appropriate jump of, okay, how do we change the gameplay enough to where it's still familiar, but it takes advantage of the 3D space? They have not done that yet with a Sonic game. I know people are gonna get mad when they hear that. They're like, "How dare you say that?" But they haven't done it. I wish they would, because I think if any character could really take advantage of having a awesome 3D open world game, it would be Sonic the Hedgehog. But we'll never get it because they don't know how to design that for a Sonic game. They came close with Sonic Lost World, and then they said, "Oh no, we can't refine this. We're just gonna go back to the same shit we've been doing." So, who wants to go next?
Oh boy. I'll say that EA has so far been going downhill for me a lot, and it makes me wonder: are they trying to keep their title of the worst game company around, or are they willing to let go? Because I see other companies trying to beat them to it.
I don't think they're the worst. I think EA is just. I think they're all bad. I think Activision is bad. 2K is bad. See, the problem is this. Okay, all these games are public. All these companies are publicly traded. Okay, which means that it's not enough for them to just make a profit. They have to pay dividends to their investors.
You mean like giving up the stock market?
Well, I mean, not giving up to the stock market. It's like, okay, if you own dividends, if a company has to pay dividends, it means that if they turn a profit on whatever products they make, they have to give a cut of that money to the people who own the stock. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you own like 600, if you own 6,000 shares of a company and they pay dividends, I mean, you don't own those 6,000 shares just out of the kindness of your own heart. You're in there to make money. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, you know, people are going to get mad about that. But I like video games too. But if I own shares of a company and they pay dividends, I own those shares so that I can make money off of my investment, you know? But here's the problem with video games is that, like, it's like they don't want to make money legitimately off of their investment. It's like they have to do weird shit like fire people and nickel and dime the shit out of their consumers. Video games are the only product where someone can sell you part of a product and people don't have a problem with it, apparently. Like, if you bought a refrigerator and you looked inside the refrigerator, like they delivered it to your house, they hooked it up, and you open it and you realize the shelves are missing and it has an ice machine in there. It has an ice maker attachment where you can press a thing and ice will come down, but you open it and there's no ice thing in there to make the ice, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Oh no, we'll add that later. We'll come back in a month or two and add the other bits and pieces to your refrigerator. Like you say, what type of bullshit is this? And yet video games, we accept that in video games. We accept people selling us a product that is not complete. And that is to me, that's unacceptable. And even Nintendo is guilty of it to an extent with some games. They're like, hey, you want the tournament mode? Just wait, we'll give it to you later. Except Nintendo isn't charging you extra for a lot of the stuff. But even then, it's like if a game isn't ready for launch, why are you putting it up for sale? I know you're trying to make money. I know you're a for-profit business. I know you're trying to make money. But seriously, don't do that because it's fucking up the market. So, we've got a little over 30 minutes left in the podcast. Anyone have anything you want to add before we wrap things up?
Well, I want to talk about two things that happened this week.
All right.
First one is the whole Etika drama.
I'm not aware of any Etika drama. Did Chris Reed and Chris whatever his name, did Kid and Play come and take back their haircut?
Nope. He got swatted by the police and was arrested and taken to the hospital.
What?
Oh, that's fucked up. Did they arrest him for keeping that hairdo for too long?
No, because he's been acting very
erratic,
very mentally ill lately. He's been blocking people who actually cared for his friends and family on Twitter and Instagram.
I don't know.
He was also live streaming his arrest from the police.
Wow, this sounds like it could be a hoax.
No, it actually happened. People online in the Smash Brothers community are talking about it.
I'm not sure what to say.
I still think it could be a hoax. I'm very suspect when I see YouTube.
Some of his followers are worried that he might be mentally ill and might be suicidal.
Yeah, I still think it could be a hoax. Because I mean, how many times have we seen people fucking do this type of weird shit on YouTube in order to get views and stay relevant and shit like that? Like, we've seen this before, so that's why I'm kind of like, I'm very hesitant to be like, oh, this is real.
Because prior to his arrest, he's been making some weird tweets and posts about it, how he is God and how he's trying to commit suicide. And then his followers try to plead him that that he needs help. He needs some mental health, only for them to be blocked. So they try to call 911 to the police to take him some help by force.
Yeah,
To which they succeeded, only to be let go of the hospital.
Yeah, I just don't.
Later. But now he's been arrested yet again and taken to the hospital for assaulting a police officer.
I'm just very skeptical about this whole thing because, I mean, how many people on YouTube have we known who've just been scamming people? I mean, don't forget, the whole reason that Video Game Facts exists is because there was a guy who had a website who basically just started manufacturing information in order to get views and blow up. So, I mean, I'm just very skeptical about the whole thing. Look, it could be true, but until I see concrete evidence, I'm gonna be very critical.
Well, that's because you never go online as often as we do.
What?
That's because you never go outside the internet as we do. Jewel and I do.
No, because it's just because people go too far. Like this is too far. This is like let me put it this way, okay? Like, first of all, listen, okay? You know, mental illness is no joke, okay? But I mean, typically speaking, if you're going to have mental illness like this, the meltdown wouldn't be so public. You know what I mean? And besides, I mean, if I'm gonna watch a YouTube personality, it's not gonna be Etika. If you get my drift.
Here's a link to the article involving the Etika drama.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a popsicle.
And I thought swatting was a more rare occurrence than I thought. This is from the same guy that was getting so hyped about every Smash fighter, right?
Yep. With the most popular one being the Mewtwo DLC.
Yeah, I can only imagine when he lost his beep when Cloud joined the battle, and then Bayonetta.
Yeah, I think maybe this dude just, I think maybe he just doesn't want to have this job.
I was going to say he needs a sanity check.
Yeah, I think maybe he just doesn't want that. I think maybe he just doesn't want to be a YouTube personality, which is okay because you know what? Being a YouTube personality isn't what it's all cracked up to be. Okay, because the thing is, like, you don't actually produce anything. You're not making a product. I know people are going to say, my brand, and I produce content. No, you
Can
don't.
I'll say this right now just to help you out, Red Fox, that YouTube personalities, unless they're doing something that is of their own free will and content, as in not show off any other things, just themselves, then they are basically using somebody else's product to try to enhance their own, and in turn try to make a profit of it,
Well,
which can get liably sued if done by a certain person.
I mean, not really. What I was gonna say is that that wasn't what I was gonna say. What I was gonna say is, like, they always say, my content, my content. Okay, if you're the video game nerd, or you're Angry Joe, or like, there are people on YouTube who basically produce content like a TV studio. They're actually producing content. They're doing something. Like, there's a guy on YouTube called Binging with Babish, and this guy teaches people how to cook. And he makes the recipes and he shows you how to make it. That is a product. That is a service. You know, he's showing people how to do something. You know, that's content. You're creating content. Oh, most of these streamers, I'm just playing a video game. Well, fuck, anybody could play a fucking video game. That's not creating content. I mean, how many times when you were a kid would you go out with your friends and they'd be like, hey, watch me play a game, and you're just watching them play a fucking video game, and that's supposed to be interesting.
Or we're all playing a modern version of a video game they own.
Even then, I'm just like, to me, I've never wanted to watch someone play a video game. Like, I'd rather be playing a video game myself than watching someone play a video game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it feels like being that kid when you go to your friend's house and you play a video game and they were good at it, and it's like, well, when I die, you can have a turn. And they'd almost beat the fucking game before they died, and it'd be your turn, but they'd be so far in that it's like you'd be like, well, shit, you know, the difficulty curve is so high, you know. But yeah,
unless you're watching their videos for a walkthrough on get passed through an obstacle that you're stuck in.
I mean, like, I have nothing against visual walkthroughs, audio-visual walkthroughs, but I just don't, like, I don't see the, like, I don't see the point. I'm sorry, I don't fucking see the point. I don't see the point of people just watching people play video games. Like, I don't see what the allure is. I don't get it, but you know, everyone has their thing. Everyone cares, but for me, I'm not like, oh my god, did you see what this guy did? I don't really care. I'm not enthralled with the idea of, you know, like, there was a guy a long time ago when I used to be on podcasts with a guy named Poppy2K. And there was this guy, and he was like really obsessed with being YouTube famous, right? And like, he was really fucking obsessed with it. Like, he would go out of his way to like do things so that he could get YouTube famous. And the thing is like, that and 50 cents won't buy you a cup of coffee.
And what happened to him now?
I don't know, but he's not YouTube famous.
If anything, I recall him, but it's been ages since I heard from him.
Yeah, he's not YouTube famous. Not that that matters. Like, being famous on YouTube doesn't mean a damn thing.
I was gonna say, unless you're PewDiePie, but that's a different story altogether.
Yeah, but PewDiePie is a fucking millionaire. Like, the thing is like, there are people who have made. There are people who have legitimately, like, it's kind of like people who have signs on their cars. My child is an honor student at this elementary school. I mean, that's basically how I feel about people on YouTube. It's like, no one gives a shit. No one cares. I mean, that's not noteworthy. You want to know what's noteworthy? If you do something that's better for humanity, okay? Like, if your child develops a cure for cancer, put that shit on your bumper sticker. That's amazing. You know, your child developed a cure for syphilis. or AIDS or a better method to test for blood-borne diseases. You know what? Put that shit on your bumper plate. No one gives a shit about your kid being an honor roll student except for you. You know? Or my personal disfavorite, baby on board, so I have to change how I drive because you decided to fuck when you were fertile. Like somehow I have to change my driving habits because you don't know how to use a condom or a birth control pill or a patch or an injection. There's all types of birth control.
Whichever is your poison.
So somehow I have to change my life, you know, because of you, you know. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. All I'm saying is this: I don't care. I give no shits about Etika. I mean, I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry. Okay, if it's legitimate, I'm sorry that he's having a mental breakdown. But if it's not legitimate and this is just some type of publicity stunt so he can get views or something, then fuck that.
Yeah. Because there's some things you don't F around with. Mental illness should be one of them.
Yeah. But that being said, anything else anyone wants to go on with before we move on to the next topic?
Yes. Paramount Pictures responding to the fan backlash of Sonic's movie design, saying that they're gonna change the design before the movie comes out this November. In other words, crunch time. And I've heard lots of awful stories about crunch times in industry.
Well, I mean, the fact that they're surprised that people are pissed about how Sonic looks tells me that they did not have any Sonic fans working on this fucking movie.
It's Hollywood. What do you expect them to do?
Not even Sega themselves weren't aware of Sonic's new design.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is called a breakdown of communication.
And of course, one of our contributors in Video Game Facts made a video claiming that the movie is going to kill Sega, which I doubt.
The movie's not going to kill Sega. Look,
Eventually, it might kill Paramount Pictures.
Well, the movie will make money. It's probably not going to be the best movie of all time. I'm going to keep it real. The best part of that trailer was Jim Carrey. So
that's sadly the truth.
No, not really. I mean, like, here's the thing. There's some movies where you can say the special effects, the monster is the star. Like Kong Skull Island. Yeah, Sam Jackson's in that movie. Brie Larson's in that movie. Tom Hiddleston is in that movie. But the star of that fucking movie
What's the graphics?
Is King Kong, right? And that fucking that CGI, that CGI fur is just right? That's the star of that fucking movie. Is
Luscious.
Yeah, the star of that movie is special effects. It's like if you're watching a Godzilla film, you don't give a shit about the humans. Typically,
you give a beep about Godzilla.
You want to see the monsters. You want to see the monsters beat the shit out of each other. You know, the goofy ass shit. That's what you want to watch. Well, that's how it is with. And then there are some films that are very character driven. Now, this Sonic film, I know people are like, man, I love Sonic. Sonic's going to be awesome. I personally would prefer. I actually like Jim Carrey more in the trailer than I do Sonic the Hedgehog. But then again, I've never been a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan, so. Sue me. Sue me for not being a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan. But that being said, anything else anyone else wants to say about Paramount? Paramount's in trouble, but believe me, Star Trek is Sonic the Hedgehog is the least of their worries. Star Trek, the Transformer films being trash, Hopefully the Fast and the Furious is Universal. Never mind.
There's Mission Impossible.
Yeah. I don't really like those movies.
And those Nickelodeon movies.
Those trash ass Nickelodeon movies that no one wants.
You just had to say that.
Well, they are. They are trash. The only okay, let me put it this way. Like, here's the problem with Paramount. They keep on putting shit out that no one wants. Like they put out that new TMNT that sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also branded as a Nickelodeon movie.
Yeah, and it sucked. It was bad. Like no one wanted to see that movie. And then not only that, they made a fucking sequel, which is even worse. It's like no one wanted to see the first movie, so then they make a sequel that's even worse than the first one. And I don't know how they managed to do that. Well, actually, I know because they had Michael Bay helming the whole damn thing.
And we all know what happens with Michael Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Michael Bay was the producer of the Bumblebee movie, and that movie did better.
The what movie?
The Bumblebee movie, though it did better than all of his Transformers movies that he directed.
Yeah, I think that may be a fluke. Or, Michael Bay just kind of maybe losing his touch.
Likely the latter.
Of course, he promised that the Bumblebee sequel will have more of Michael Bay's touch.
And that movie's gonna be fucked too. I'm just saying, Michael Bay is not
a movie quality director.
Michael Bay hasn't made a movie that I've given a shit about since The Rock. Maybe Bad Boys.
What about Pain and Gain?
I'm not wild about that movie. It's not bad. It's better than most of Michael Bay's films, but I'm not like, oh my god, this film has changed my life. It's more like, it's better than normal,
And I remember he was involved with the original Purge movie and the remakes of Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I don't like those remakes. I don't. No, I don't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like for me, my favorite '80s slasher film is I like Friday the 13th because Friday the 13th gives me exactly what I want, which is gratuitous violence on teens who shouldn't have their ass out there in the first place. It's great, people dying horrifically and teenagers being stupid, like. You told you before you picked this shitty ass place that there's a crazy mass murderer every few years killing people, and this crazy chick is in a sleeping bag, and she sees her friend get killed, and she's gonna hide in the sleeping bag. Really?
That's like hiding under the bed. You're gonna be found.
Lock yourself in the bathroom. It's like, you dumb motherfucker. You deserve to die for doing that. No, if I'm tell you right now, I would like to see a Friday the 13th where they have a black guy in there who's like, yeah, I saw some shady shit was going down, so I let the white folks off and drove off and never turned back. The one person who survived. Like, what happened? I don't know, man. I turned around and left. Because fuck that shit. First of all, if you're a black person, you ain't got no business out in them damn woods in the first place. To hell with that shit. And before anyone says, how can you say that? Look, I was in Boy Scouts, made it all the way to Eagle Scout. got my Eagle Scout my Eagle Scouts recommendation, requisites, and all that stuff. I'll tell you right now, I hate the woods. Even now, having gotten all those merit badges, I hate the woods. So if you're a black person, you going out there in them damn woods, I ain't saying shit to you except get the hell out of there, man. It's not worth it. Especially with a crazy dude with a machete. So we're at the 8:46 mark. Anyone have anything else they want to add before we wrap things up?
Let's see. All other than Warhammer 40,000 Death Watch getting its physical Switch release canceled.
Not really surprised by that because, you know, Nintendo gets fucked over all the time. I mean, I think that's a prerequisite to be a Nintendo system. It's like, oh, at some point you're going to get fucked over.
And early reviews for Detective Pikachu are out. Its Rotten Tomatoes scores is currently at 75%.
So that's certified fresh, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Even though 75 is not fresh.
I was about to say, hopefully this will stay and not change like some other movies.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, there's no reason for this film to not score well because to not be considered well. Because think about it. I mean, it's basically, you've got Hollywood's golden boy right now, Ryan Reynolds, right? The film, even though it has Pokemon in it, isn't it really a video game movie? It's more of a mystery.
I think that's how come this is going to be at least better than Mario and Sonic.
Yeah, but I mean, you could flush something down the toilet that would be better than Mario and Sonic. I'm saying those movies suck. And here, to be fair, the Mario movie, like I said, the Mario movie is not that bad. If you divorce it from its source material, it's not that bad. It really isn't. It's a dystopian, post-apocalyptic, alternate future, cyberpunk type thing going on. It's actually pretty good. If you consider that it is not connected to, you know, the video game. If you can get past that, it's not that bad. And I'll tell you what's bad. What might be terrible. If they make a Warcraft 2 movie, that's gonna suck.
And you know what's funny about the movie? In one of the recent trailers, they show a scene of an auxiliary as a sushi chef, like the one Monsters Inc.
So basically, you have an octopus Pokemon cooking fish Pokemon.
Yeah, and in the Pokemon anime, they did one of the recent episodes did the exact same thing, an auxiliary cooking sushi food. So, yeah.
Well, that's not really shocking considering that octopi eat fish.
Yeah,
so
they cannibalize their own kind. And they can also regenerate their tentacles.
Not really. Octopuses really don't cannibalize their own kind. They do. They are territorial though, and they will push themselves. They will, you know.
They will break themselves apart to try to keep themselves safe.
Oh no, they'll fight each other for choice spots to hide and live. There's this. I was watching this nature documentary where they had these octopuses someplace in Italy where there's this underwater volcano, and like basically there's this area that's relatively safe, and the octopuses have essentially created this apartment complex, but there's like choice spots, so they'll evict each other and take someone else's spot and fight each other for the choice spot to live in. It's kind of weird, but yeah. Octopuses are relatively. I mean, they have a lot of intelligence for being
Or a cephalopod.
for a cephalopod, yeah. For a creature that's related to mollusks and invertebrates and shit.
And that's why they're so nice to look at.
I wouldn't say that. Hey, let me put it this way, all right? A creature's being interesting is inversely proportionate to how to where it goes to the bathroom from. Now, if you look at a fish, you can pretty much figure out where they go to the bathroom from. But an octopus, it's very interesting where an octopus goes to the bathroom from. It's very weird. You wouldn't guess in a million years.
I'm not even gonna ask.
Yeah, it's very weird. You'd be like, I can't believe that. I'm surprised.
Like
Some things are TMI.
They're so smart that they can get out of their own aquarium tanks.
And yeah, there's a documented case of an octopus that was in an aquarium, basically escaping from its aquarium and going back to the ocean, which is that is some hardcore shit right there, man. Nature, look, I don't know about God, but nature is off the chain. Mother Nature ain't no joke.
Oh, there was also a documentary of an octopus sneaking into other aquarium tanks to eat other fish, only to come back into its own aquarium tank without anyone noticing.
They're that hardcore, man. And everyone always thinks that octopuses, after they mate, they die, right? But there's a breed of octopi, like really small octopuses that live in the Caribbean, that actually they mate and they lay their eggs and they watch their eggs, and then they don't die after they have their young. They go off and do other things. And so, I mean, it's like nature is awesome. Octopuses are awesome. They have a form of intelligence. Like I've seen a thing where they had these octopuses that were fucking that were in the aquarium and actually recognized different different keepers and actually would play games and hang out with people. Pretty damn smart.
That's why people prefer octolings over inklings in Splatoon.
I don't know about that. I think they're both. I think they're both interesting, depending on how
They're set up.
Yeah, how it's set up. But that being said, anything else anyone else wants to bring up before we wrap things up? Since we're almost at the end.
Nope, that's about it.
All right, so that's the end of the podcast. What do you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Well, I got my Star Wars satirical article up on Video Game Facts in celebration of May the 4th.
Okay.
Be sure to check that out.
All right.
We'll see.
It's not that bad. It's just it's relatively blatantly done satire. Nothing too.
I was gonna say that in proportion to the other movies, this is probably one of the worst. I mean, one of the other.
It's just really blatant, you know. Like, I mean, just being seriously, if I was gonna make a joke about the worst Star Wars movie, I mean, it's so much easier. It's so much better to go with Battle of Endor or Return to Endor or the Christmas special. I mean, that's so much better than The Last Jedi. I mean, The Last Jedi is not good, but it's not like, oh my God, my face melted when I saw it, Ark of the Covenant style, and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, I mean, is it good? Is The Last Jedi good? Not really. Is it like the worst movie ever? No. Is it the worst Star Wars movie ever? No. Jesus, hell no. That's Battle for Endor. That's pretty damn bad. But speaking of, this is May the 4th, so I got something to pimp out, okay? This is not for me. If you guys get a chance, go and watch Spaceballs. It's a great film, and it's totally a parody of Star Wars, like totally a parody. If you want to watch
A
something,
very good parody, thankfully.
yeah, an astonishingly good Star Wars parody. If you want to watch a show that's like Star Wars, but
Does it have the license behind it?
versus a lot of the ideas behind Star Wars, my advice is to go watch something called Farscape. Like Star Wars, Farscape uses puppets from the Hinton Workshop, but that's where the similarities end, because it does have a character who goes to a galaxy that's far, far away, but not a long, long time ago. And it does have evil bad guys and good guys and weird looking characters and weird looking ships. Pretty damn good. Go watch that. That's a good sci-fi romp. I think it's on Hulu right now. No, Amazon Prime right now. So you can watch it for free. All 4 seasons of it, because it was canceled in its 4th season. But there's like a movie that wraps everything up. Plus, there's like a comic book adaptation that continues the adventures of the crew and everything like that. It's pretty good. That being said, that's in the podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy what you enjoy. If you don't like something, you don't have to. You don't have to watch something you don't like, but you don't have to hate on something that you don't like either. So with that being said, that's in the podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. You can reach me on finding my information. You can reach me on mrredfoxbsbusters@gmail.com or at Twitter at Matthew Wesley at Mr. Red Fox 91. That's in the podcast. Peace, good night, and enjoy. And may the
And hype responsibly.